they begin harassing Israel.
Scott, good to have your company this evening. Thank you very much indeed for your analysis. These are the live pictures you're looking at of Beirut. I would point you to the live page on the BBC webpage. You will find all the latest from our live teams there on what is happening at the border. Certainly a pensive night, I would suggest, in Beirut, and a lot of concern in Lebanon about what is about to unfold next. You're watching BBC News.
I'm Caitriona Perry in Washington, and this is BBC World News America. The US says Israel is currently conducting limited operations against Hezbollah infrastructure in Lebanon. More than 100 people are dead, hundreds more unaccounted for, and millions without power in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene in the US. And nearly 200 people have been killed by torrential flooding and landslides in Nepal. Hello and welcome to World News America. I'm Caitriona Perry. The US says Israel is currently conducting limited operations against Hezbollah infrastructure in Lebanon. It comes after a fresh wave of deadly Israeli airstrikes targeting the Iran-backed militant group. During a visit to the Lebanon border, Israel's defense minister said Israel was ready to use forces from air, sea and land to achieve its objectives. That includes ensuring people who were evacuated from their homes in northern Israel are safe to return. Now, here in the US, the devastation wreaked by Hurricane Helene is becoming clearer. 116 people have so far been confirmed dead across Florida, Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee, North and South Carolina. But with recovery efforts still underway, the US Homeland Security Chief warned that that number could rise potentially to over 600. President Joe Biden said he hopes to visit some of the areas hardest hit later this week. Thousands of search and rescue personnel have been deployed through states in the southeast to try and find those still missing or unaccounted for. Helene made landfall last Thursday in Florida's Big Bend as a powerful Category 4 storm. The hurricane then moved north over Georgia, bringing historic levels of damage. Over the weekend, Helene ploughed through eastern North Carolina, where it was downgraded to a severe tropical storm, but that did nothing to slow its impact on North Carolina as the storm unleashed devastating floods. The state's governor, Roy Cooper, said many communities were potentially even wiped off the map. Here's what President Biden had to say a short time ago. Both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump have changed their plans on the campaign trail in response to Hurricane Helene. Vice President Harris cut a campaign visit to Las Vegas short and returned to Washington, D.C. to attend emergency management briefings about the storm. While they each plan to travel to the affected region, President Biden and Vice President Harris say they don't want to disrupt ongoing response and recovery efforts there. Mr. Trump visited Georgia on Monday to see the damage and visit communities in the town of Valdosta. Speaking alongside the mayor and community officials, former President Trump said he brought lots of relief material for displaced residents there. Well, officials in Nepal say the number of people known to have been killed by landslides and floods in recent days has reached 200. More than 20 others are still missing, with rescue efforts ongoing. Nepal's army says more than 4,000 people have been rescued with helicopters, motorboats and rafts, bringing stranded people to safety after roads and bridges in several areas were washed away. Concerns have also been raised by aid groups about providing food, shelter, water and sanitation for those impacted by the floods. Well, let's return to our top story now. Following the limited ground incursion Israel launched in Lebanon a short while ago, our correspondent Anna Foster is in Beirut and we can join her on the ground now for more. Anna, what can you tell us about what is going on there in Lebanon tonight? Now, remember, you can keep up to date with just what's going on between Lebanon and Israel on our website and plenty more besides. I'm Caitriona Perry. Thank you for watching World News America. Take care.
In the NHS, but we can win. That's why it's positive here.
Yeah. But that's. And if you want to carry on watching Newsnight, please turn over to BBC Two or watch on iPlayer.
Do stay with us here on BBC News for all the latest headlines in the US and around the world from the team here in Washington.
I'm Sumi Somaskanda in Washington, and this is BBC World News America. The Middle East bracing for wider war. Israel closes part of its border area with Lebanon and tells the U.S. it is planning to launch limited ground operations against Hezbollah.
There have been fresh airstrikes here in Beirut tonight. The sound loud and echoing across the city. It's a nervous night here in Lebanon. I'll bring you the latest.
Hurricane Helene tears a path of devastation through North Carolina as the death toll across the southeastern U.S. rises above 100 and counting. She's a longtime face of France's far right. Now Marine Le Pen is on trial for funneling EU funds to her own party. She denies any wrongdoing. Plus, going offline for good. The UK shuts down its last coal-fired power plant, becoming the first major economy to do so. A very warm welcome to this new extended hour of World News America, where we'll bring you a full hour of live news and analysis from here in the US, the UK, and around the world. And we start tonight with a rapidly developing situation in the Middle East. The U.S. State Department says Israel is currently conducting limited operations targeting Hezbollah inside Lebanon, where there are indications an Israeli ground operation is imminent. Tanks are beginning to gather on Israel's northern border, where 3 areas have been declared closed military zones. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said the military is prepared to use forces, quote, from the air, land, and sea to allow thousands of displaced Israelis to return to their homes in the north. Mr. Gallant also said the next phase of the war against Lebanon's Hezbollah will begin soon, and that the killing of Hezbollah's leader was not the final step. Meanwhile, the deputy chief of Hezbollah, Naim Qassem, said the group fighters are ready to confront an invasion. He acknowledged that the assassination of leader Hassan Nasrallah was a big blow, but said all fallen commanders would soon be replaced. Now, here in the U.S., the devastation caused by Hurricane Helene is becoming ever clearer. 116 people have so far been confirmed dead across Florida, Georgia, Virginia, Tennessee, North and South Carolina. But with more than 600 people still unaccounted for, the U.S. Homeland Security Chief has warned that that death toll could rise. Thousands of search and rescue personnel have been deployed through states in the southeast to find those still missing. President Biden says he plans to visit flood-ravaged North Carolina on Wednesday. The president addressed the damage a little earlier.
I'm here to tell every single survivor in these impacted areas that we will be there with you as long as it takes. For the sake of yourselves, and your families, I urge everyone returning to their communities and home to listen to the local officials and follow all safety instructions. Take this seriously. Please be safe.
Helene made landfall last Thursday in Florida's Big Bend as a powerful Category 4 storm. The hurricane then moved north over Georgia, bringing historic levels of damage. Over the weekend, Helene plowed through eastern North Carolina, where it was downgraded to a severe tropical storm. But that did nothing to slow its impact in North Carolina as the storm unleashed devastating floods. The state's governor, Roy Cooper, said many communities were wiped off the map. Our correspondent Carl Nassman has more. Now to some other headlines. Nigerian authorities are investigating reports that at least 24 civilians were killed in an airstrike in the northwest Kaduna state. Nigeria's Air Force said it had been targeting hideouts for armed gangs in the region based on, quote, credible intelligence and reliable confirmatory surveillance. The incident has sparked concerns following a mistaken airstrike by Nigeria's Air Force last year. The man charged in an alleged assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump entered a not guilty plea on Monday. Prosecutors say Ryan Ruth was spotted with a rifle as he hid in the bushes near Trump's golf course in West Palm Beach earlier this month. If convicted, Ruth faces a maximum sentence of life in prison. The rock band Oasis says they will ditch dynamic pricing for their tours in the U.S. after it caused an unacceptable experience for UK fans. The system automatically raised the prices of concert tickets at times of high demand. The band faced backlash, and an investigation was opened in the UK to see if Ticketmaster violated consumer protection laws. Prince Harry has made a rare public appearance in the UK to celebrate the achievements of young people and their families dealing with serious health conditions. The Duke of Sussex attended the annual Well Child ceremony in central London, a charity of which he's a patron. It isn't known whether he'll see his family while he's there. In the next couple of hours, UK's last coal-fired power station will shut down for good. Ratcliffe-on-Saw in Nottinghamshire has been generating power for the last 57 years, but when operations end, the UK will become the first major economy to quit coal. Here's Justin Rowlett. Our climate editor, Justin Rowlett, there. And our coverage and analysis of the day's events continues in the next half hour. With just 35 days to go until the U.S. presidential election, we're going to have a look at the latest on the campaign trail. You'll also hear more about the humanitarian crisis in Sudan, sparked by the conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and rapid support forces in Darfur. Stay with us right here on BBC News. We're back in just a few minutes. I'm Sumi Somaskanda in Washington, and this is BBC World News America. The U.S. says Israel is currently conducting limited operations against Hezbollah infrastructure at the Lebanon-Israel border. Here in the U.S., vice presidential hopefuls Tim Walz and J.D. Vance prepare to hit the debate stage on Tuesday night. And hopes for a ceasefire in Sudan are quickly fading after the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces said it will instead seek a military solution to end the conflict. Welcome back. Returning now to our top story. As the Middle East braces for a possible Israeli incursion into Lebanon, the U.S. State Department says Israel is currently conducting limited operations targeting Hezbollah infrastructure at the border. And further north in Lebanon, people in parts of southern Beirut have been urged to evacuate amid reports of explosions. Now, here in the U.S., we're just 35 days away from the presidential election and just one day away from the vice presidential debate. Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz and his Republican rival J.D. Vance will take the stage Tuesday in New York for what is likely to be the last debate before the election. Early voting is already underway in 7 U.S. states. The aftermath from Hurricane Helene, which has killed more than 100 people, has put the campaign trail on pause. And it remains to be seen how the aftermath could affect voting for the presidential election. The North Carolina Election Board has just released a statement saying they will do everything possible to ensure every eligible voter can cast their ballot. Democratic nominee Kamala Harris cut short a campaign trip to fly back to Washington. She has been taking part in briefings at the headquarters for the Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. The White House says she will visit the impacted areas as soon as possible without disrupting emergency response operations. Her opponent, Republican Donald Trump, has already paid a visit. He's been speaking in Valdosta, Georgia, where he struck a different tone than earlier in the week when he called Vice President Harris mentally impaired. The former president said politics should be put aside to help those in need. And we can talk about that with my guests tonight, Eric Cordeleza, national political correspondent at Time, as well as Axios senior contributor Margaret Talev. Great to see you both. Margaret, I'm going to start with you. Vice presidential debate could be the last debate we see in this election season. What are you going to be looking out for?
I'll be watching for 2 things.
Margaret, Eric, always great to get your take. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're going to move on to some other news now. A BBC investigation has discovered that multiple signs of slavery were missed after 9 men were trafficked from the Czech Republic and forced to work at a UK McDonald's restaurant by a criminal gang. Other victims were enslaved and put to work at a factory supplying bread products to major food retailers. Baroness Theresa May, who introduced anti-slavery legislation, says the case raises shocking questions about how big companies address modern slavery. John Ironmonger has the story. Okay, moving on to some other news now. And the BBC has apologized to the actor Amanda Abbington and upheld several complaints made by her against her professional dance partner on Strictly Come Dancing last year. But Giovanni Pernice has been cleared of the most serious allegations of physical aggression. The actress who starred in Sherlock previously described her dance partner as abusive, cruel, and mean. She called the BBC's apology a vindication of her complaint. And our culture and media editor Katie Razzle reports. All right, thank you for watching World News America. Don't forget that you can head to our website, bbc.com/news, for all the latest. We have a live page there at the moment with the latest on the Middle East. The U.S. State Department saying Israel is currently conducting limited operations targeting Hezbollah inside Lebanon. And again, our correspondent witnessing some blasts in southern Beirut. Stay tuned. We're back in a few minutes with an update on all of that and more.
Hello there. Well, as we start off October, things are looking a little drier for a couple of